I'm Paul Hoffschmidt, the founder and CEO of Alpha Sophia, and this week I'm joined by Weronika Michaluk, MedTech Practice Lead of HTD Health. Thanks for joining us today, Veronica.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So let's start right in. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Sure thing. So my name is Weronika. I'm Polish, as you can tell by my accent. I am biomedical engineer by training and have been in medical device space my whole career, and started actually, as a biomedical engineer, doing hands-on, soldering, programming, and all the fun stuff. And after that time, I moved to South Korea, where I was working in the neuroscience department in the optogenetics field. That was also pretty cool, as we were doing a research on the thing whether you can bank the sleep. So imagine, Paul, that you're going to a intense conference next week, and can you actually bank the sleep more this week to actually have more energy the next week? Professor is still doing the research, but they are some positive, let's say, outcomes. So after that, I call it nerdy part of my life. I moved to Miami, where I did actually my master's and an MBA at the University of Miami, joined Boston Scientific, big medical device company. I was there in charge of digital health space and innovation, and was actually in charge of Latin America, which was also pretty nice. And after some time, I moved to Barcelona, Spain, and I met Zach, CEO of HTD Health. And since that time, I'm leading here at HTD MedTech Practice, and I'm MedTech Practice Lead. And on the personal level, love hiking, hiked Kilimanjaro, planning to do Mount Everest soon, but the base camp only. And used to play soccer professionally many, many years ago. So if you ever want to play, we can play.
That's good to know. Maybe at LSI in Portugal a few weeks down the road.
Exactly.
You mentioned HTD, the company you're currently working for. Let's dive into this a little bit because with that company, you're working with a range of medical device companies globally in different therapeutic areas with different use cases. At HTD, you say you're building human-centered technology for healthcare, which is quite a broad statement. Could you maybe explain to a layperson what that means?
Yes, definitely. So HTD, we are a technology services company, and we support different size of organizations, from startups to medical centers or big established organizations. And what we do, we help them take their product ideas to the market. And we actually support throughout complete whole product life cycle. What does it mean? We actually, support from understanding end user needs, then going into design, development, verification, validation, complete documentation, and then building the end product. And what I always say, we don't just create the software, but we actually build experiences for end users that are well integrated within the whole healthcare ecosystem, which is also very important right now. And because I mentioned that I have this sports background, right? I always say that as each coach tailors the training plan to the unique needs of specific person, HTD designs solutions that are also tailored to specific needs of specific patients, because depends on the symptoms, depends on the focus areas, the needs are different. So that's in the nutshell what we do.
And end users can of course be patients, but maybe also, practitioners, physicians.
Correct. Great point. Yes, patients, if we design mobile application for the patients, but very often providers, physicians, that use, for example, platforms to analyze some data to get access to their patients' information, or to provide even telehealth consultancy for patients. Also can be payers. Payers are on the other side, that we also support payers. So, payers, providers, patients. But what's important to mention, we're purely focused on the healthcare space.
And also purely on software, I assume.
Correct. Software and firmware, yes.
Okay, so you're not going to the hardware layer. It's purely focused on software and firmware.
Yes, yes.
Um, Maybe within healthcare, I mean, I think when we first met, we talked about like the different practice areas you're supporting. Can you differentiate that a little bit? Which different focus areas you're currently having?
Yes, so we have at HTD we have five practices. We have AI and ML. We have payers and insurance, data, liquidity and interoperability, SaaS platforms, and MedTech. And each practice is led by practice lead. So myself, I lead MedTech practice, and then we have other practice leads. So what is also very important to mention is that actually we don't work in silos, but we actually collaborate very closely. To give you example, everybody talks about AI ML right now, right? So there's so many applications in the medtech space. You can build applications that will have inside AI ML capabilities. The other part, payers and insurance. When you build a medical device software or medical device, you got to think about market access reimbursement strategy. So that's what we also do. Then interoperability. You don't want to build a medical device or medical device software that is just, standalone and it's not
In
connected.
siloed.
Exactly siloed. You got to make it connected to the overall system so that it can maybe be connected to EHR, and then to other devices, so that it really streamlines the process and patient journey.
Interesting. Now understanding your service spectrum a little bit better, what are typical clients you work with in terms of stage, size, the products they build, and so on?
Very diverse range of clients. So from startups, seed, series A, higher, to medical centers and big established organizations like Smith and Nephew, Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah.
So also, when it comes to some therapy areas that we have experience with, so neuromodulation is definitely one of the biggest focus areas that we have. Cardiology, it's another very big focus area. Orthopedics, and diabetes. So these four, I would say a lot. And also oncology, it's another very important part for us. What's also important maybe to mention is that we specialize in the US market, but also have some customers in the EU, and hopefully we will expand soon to the Middle East. So that's for the future.
Very interesting. And then in terms of setup, do you usually work with them for the whole product development cycle or for a distinct part? Do you then also support them later on with maintenance, or what's the typical setup with those customers?
So the favorite answer, it depends. It depends on the client's needs, on their stage. So we can be flexible. We can do complete product development. So we have some clients that come to us and they have their brilliant idea, but they don't have capabilities in house to build it. So then we collaborate very closely with them. Actually, the client always have very important saying, right? And they tell us whether they agree with us, whether they want to make some change in the product, etc. So always collaboration is the key, and transparency and communication. But so we can lead complete product development, but we can also work on the hybrid model. So sometimes we have clients that have their software engineers, great ones, but the software engineers don't know how to develop software accordingly to FDA regulations.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the thing. And then we create a hybrid team and work together. When it comes to maintenance and support, again, it depends. We can do complete transfer, and then the client owns everything. And after delivery of the product, they take on the support and maintenance. But very often they tell us that they would like to continue, collaboration, and then we provide the support and maintenance. So depends on the needs.
Interesting. I assume software as a medical device is a big topic you're working on. What are typical challenges you see when developing software as a medical device?
Yeah, so very often it's like, as I mentioned, we have brilliant clients that come to us and they have amazing ideas, and they are very tech savvy. But the challenge that I see very often is actually complex regulatory requirements, right? Because we are in the medical device space, so the regulations are strict. So just understanding how to develop software accordingly to specific regulations, as they are IEC 62304 standard that tells us how to develop software. Then you have risk management, ISO 14971. Then you have the whole design controls, etc. So just kind of understanding all the requirements is one of the challenge, and then staying up to date with them, because we talked, Paul, about AI ML. So this is something that FDA is currently still working on, like creating guidelines around this. So just ensuring that you're up to date and you deliver the software that is compliant. And one more thing that I see is the challenge is creating actually a software that is user friendly and that patients or physicians or payers, our end user, will want to use. Because there's one thing to just create a software, but then the other one is to have users use it. So that these are like two main challenges that I would see in the projects.
Okay, med device folks, picture this. What if you could open up a CRM today and it already contained information for every potential lead for you in the country? And you could narrow down those leads further by looking at billing, location, seniority, so much more. Alpha Sophia is the strategy tool that we wish we had had when we were commercializing a medical device in the US market. But there's nothing stopping you. So visit alphasophia.com and learn more.
Yeah, so basically, when building software as a medical device, the main challenges are, you said, on the one hand side, getting the regulation right. It's not only about building the product purely, but also building it in a regulatory compliant way. Secondly, then even if you manage to do that once, keeping up to date with changing regulations. And then thirdly, don't losing usability out of eyesight when building the product.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite snappy. That's good advice to keep in mind. I can imagine you building with many teams at the same time, and often having seen a problem on one project, you can then cross-pollinate that intel into other projects and serve your clients in a really adequate way for their projects.
Yes, that's very helpful actually, to see many different, let's say, cases, and then be able to apply that for future clients. And that is also that's helpful for clients to save money and cost, right? Because they will not make mistakes that, let's say, others have done or we've
before.
Done exactly.
Yeah. Understood. And on top to that, how do you usually tackle those challenges together with your clients, and how do you overcome them together? It's mostly knowledge based, because you've experienced that in the past, as we just discussed, or are there other ingredients to success to manage that?
So first of all, collaboration is a key, and creating the team that will have actually specific experts on board, to your point. Because if you would have a challenge, the regulatory quality challenge, then we gotta bring on regulatory and quality experts. Cybersecurity, then the same, right? Risk management, then we bring on risk manager. So actually, from my experience, is first of all bringing on the experience from other projects and already kind of lessons learned, but then also ensuring that we bring on the good team, right? That will have the capabilities needed to solve a specific challenge.
Yeah. In terms of that, are there if a company would choose to do that on their own, and that because they have limited resources in the beginning, they just want to get started, would you recommend them, in order to manage that forest of regulation, to also proactively approach the regulators, or or don't do that, what's your go-to advice? Are you more rather proactive with whether regulators or reactive? What's the advice you would give to a founder in that field?
Yeah, the more proactive you can be, the better, because you can reach out to FDA. They will give you some feedback. You can then implement feedback, make changes. It's much better to be proactive and get feedback early on, rather than develop your complete product, then submit, do the 510K, and then get the feedback that it's actually you have to redo everything. Definitely, way better to be proactive.
Yeah. Maybe moving away a little bit from that typical customer of a founder in the MedTech space, software medical device space. How do you think the big dinosaurs of the industry, big MedTech, large medical device companies who probably have a portfolio of products which is quite hardware heavy, how can they leverage software and integrate that into their portfolio?
A great question, and actually, I'm happy with that. We're seeing the change currently in the market as more and more traditional hardware organizations are actually implementing software, and they can use them software like to enable real-time data collection and analysis, provide remote monitoring, any like telemedicine capabilities, provide personalized treatments. Another thing is like if you have a hardware device that is that requires remote programming, you can do programming remotely through the software, not just sending your stuff every single time to the specific place, which will also help you save money. Then the data, right? If you create hardware devices that are connected, let's say to EHR or any other database or platform, you can make so many different things out of this data. Predictive analytics, you can check whether the device will break or do something else. You can do remote programming. You can analyze data from patients, and the patient data are actually gold, and you can make the use out of so many different uses. And actually some hardware companies are already leveraging that to harness, I say, the power of subscription model. So moving from one time sell of device to actually doing the subscription model with through the data, providing ongoing services for the clients. So that, and also just staying closer to your patient. So from my experience, we've actually developed one of the companion applications that was class 2 medical software device, and it was connected with a hardware device that was for patients with tremor. So the main thing, let's say, was a hardware wristband, but then you had a mobile application, and the patient could actually send feedback to physician, at the real time, right? And they could get some response as well. Physician and the organization could also gather data and see data at the same time. So many uses, but definitely data is gold right now. And then through software, you can really save time, save money, and then focus on really adding and creating value in the space.
Yeah. Maybe moving to your personal background, you do have a background in medical engineering. How is this influencing your work today, working with medical device companies and supporting them and then building their products together?
Actually it helps a lot because, as I mentioned, I used to do the programming and do the softwaring, and then also had this business education. So it really helps to first of all understand end user needs, but then also understand and try to help plan from the technical and business side of things. And it also helps me to kind of create a bridge between our engineers, quality people, physicians, and then business people, because I kind of have everything from a little bit from different worlds. And that really helps, and even during the medical engineering school, we had to study many different, diseases, right? That also helps me to then understand and navigate in this landscape. So I'm actually I'm very happy that I am actually doing the working in the field that I studied.
Yeah, I can imagine that. From all that experience, what advice in general would you give to medical device, software as a medical device founders launching on the US market? There, I mean,
Great.
usually when your product development reaches end, customers are thinking about launch, approaching customers. Maybe you also have some touch points with that.
Yes, so great question. Like about the advice. So prioritize patient experience, as I mentioned, really understand the end user, focus on the usability and enhance engagement. Even implement, the usability tests, implement testing to gather feedback and then make change if needed. Then also design. Remember, when you design your software, think about the future. So design for scalability and interoperability. Because, you can start small, but then once you grow, you don't want to wake up one day and say like, oh my goodness, I have to redo everything. But then just build on top of that. So definitely design for scalability and interoperability. And remember about market access strategies, because again, it's one thing to build the software, but the other to then launch it correctly, successfully. And also think about the reimbursement, because somebody must pay for that device. So just thinking ahead of the game, it's very, very important.
I do agree. Maybe one last question on a higher level. Do you see any overarching trends in MedTech you see unfold in the coming 3, 5, 10 years?
Yes, I do. And actually, we tackled some of them. So, okay, everybody is talking about AI, ML, but I do think that there is big potential, especially in the software as medical device space. So AI, ML, but also interoperability. As I mentioned before, traditional hardware organizations are focusing more and more on the interoperability and the software solutions, and then moving from one-time sale to actually ongoing recurring revenue through the subscription and service model. So these are the new things, actually, but I'm very interested in the future and just observing what is coming.
Yeah, thank you. Last question. So what's up next for you and HTD Health in the MedTech space?
I always say that I'm very excited about the bright future of HTD because, thanks to our structure, like 5 different practices, we can really provide the unique services for our customers. And we are really looking forward into like expanding our partnerships, going into new geographies, and just continuing on providing, excellent services for our organizations, and just seeing how our software solutions, help patients solve, help patients, to just improve their lives. And as a short kind of term thing, looking forward to the LSI and seeing you there.
It's always a good place to meet, right? I mean,
exactly.
It's like a class meeting of MedTech innovators.
Exactly, and that's how actually we met, right?
During
one of the previous events. So definitely looking forward to it.
Looking forward to seeing you there as well, Weronika. Thanks a lot for joining us today. And see you in a few weeks. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Can you afford to have a rep in every county, or do you need to be hyper-targeted in your outreach? Do you need to know information about your targets going in to be successful, or do you have years and years before you want to close that deal? If you want to be focused, if you want to deliver fast, you should visit alphasophia.com and help your sales team out.